Okay, so you implemented the strategy that we talked about in order to reach your goal of having the kids focused and using more accountable talk in the classroom. So overall, just the focus needs to be on you through technology is what we kind of talked about. And what the strategy that I had modeled in the last video was using IXL whole group instead of individually, right? And so you took that back and you have done it in your classroom. And we're looking at some of the summative assessments that you gave. Did you give these the day of or the next day of that topic?
The next day we reviewed just a little bit and then I gave it to them.
Okay, gotcha. So, looking through these, what do you think, like, are you seeing growth?
Well, okay, there was one specifically that I wanted to look at. Here, he showed tremendous growth from the last time that I tested him. But however, like, she didn't show as much growth.
So it's kind of back and forth.
So those were two that were on my mind. Let me see. But like, this one, she had maybe made like a 60 on the last time that I had tested them on this. And I mean, look at that, she's a 100 now.
So overall though, looking at this, based on, because these are your students, they're not mine, so I don't have a ton of background knowledge, but based on what you're saying is it did work for some of them, but for some of them it didn't click.
For a
which
few,
is normal.
For a few, which is why we have guided math time to pull them back and to kind of catch them up.
Gotcha.
What they missed.
I mean, that's what I'm looking at these, and I am seeing lots of, because we said we wanted them to be at, what, 80% for mastery.
And a lot of them are at 70s or 60s. Like, if they were just to maybe get one or two more right, they would be
I'm not
good.
seeing 50s or 60s.
Yeah.
So that's a positive to look at, too, though, to know that most of them did get the idea. They do understand it. So we do know that the strategy worked. And even when we were watching your video, I wanted to go back over that checklist we made for you to kind of follow when you did the implementation. And one of the things was Chromebooks are closed, and all the kids' Chromebooks were closed during that lesson. So Chromebooks were closed, so you did have full attention. Kids weren't playing on anything else. You did do some of it in groups. Did you? I saw that you put some of them in groups.
Yes.
You did it whole groups, but you had kind of like teams. Is what it looked like on there.
That way they. Sometimes you like to sneak learning onto kids.
Yeah, and I feel like they think that's a game. As soon as you put them in teams, it's a game to them.
And then they forget that they're learning, but then they retain and they like sponge it. Like they take it in like a sponge and they just retain all that information. Because it was fun.
Yeah, it is fun for them, and they, like you said, they do retain it without realizing it too.
Exactly.
And you use some kind of incentive. I see that the winner of the game got. Was it tickets? Is what you give away?
Yes, tickets.
Okay.
Or sometimes candy. Good old sugar works.
That's what I saw that you gave something, but I thought it was little tickets. So I think the checklist worked though, and you hit everything on the checklist, and everyone was very involved. They were paying attention. So I think you did a great job implementing the strategy. And I mean, based on these. Was this a quiz you said, or was this a test?
This was more of a quiz grade for them, but it was more of just a check and kind of make sure that they were following along.
Yeah.
But as for I grouped them together based on how they did or what they might have needed. So these two I'll pull back tomorrow.
Gotcha.
And then I think that they were the only ones.
I say the rest of them are either 80s, 90s, and there are lots of hundreds in here, though, which is what we love to see. And I know that 80% was what we said, what the kids needed to hit, what needed to hit in order to hit mastery, and I'm seeing a lot of that. So
exactly.
I think the strategy did work very well, and even maybe I was thinking for these kids who maybe they did get a 60 or they got a 70. You could also, after you've done this whole group like you did, go ahead and go back and maybe let those few kids do that module on their iPad by themselves.
Exactly.
You could even do that during your guided reading group if you wanted to.
Yes.
Just to see, even if they weren't paying attention up there, if they were just overwhelmed by the game, which happens. Which happens. If they were overwhelmed, they can just get back on later and try it by themselves if they need to. Or you could find other strategies too that you want to implement just to make it work as well.
Exactly.
we kind of went over the data for this, and this is pretty good data if you ask me. Especially with our goal was to hit 80% on a summative assessment, and this is what we've hit. And we also talked about how we would have kind of like a verbal assessment too. I forgot to talk about this, about just kind of seeing if you ask a kid a question, are they on topic? Can they give it back to you? And you can tell that yes, because you kind of jumped around from the groups, and you even made each kid in each group take turns answering. So not each group had one person answering.
Exactly.
Because sometimes that's only that one kid working. So I'm glad that you did that in your groups, and that's an assessment in itself to see if the kids are paying attention. You know, is everybody paying attention? Or is just one kid saying the answer to another kid to tell you, you know? So that was the other piece of assessment we had talked about in the beginning too, and it went well from what I can tell in the video. So I think that went good. I want to ask you though, how do you think the assessment went? Because my opinion, I kind of told you my opinion. I think it went great. Your assessment grades look fine. Your implementation that we just watched looked great. Was there anything that you got from it, or anything that you want to change from it, or do a little bit differently?
The only thing that I'd like to do different on the assessment is if you look right here, there's room for extension. So like being able to scaffold it to where there's extension, because I have students who could go further or who could do more. And then that would change my instruction for the next lesson that we do, or the next topic or module that we move on to.
I'm really glad you said that, because when you think about extensions too, because you do always have those kids, so you don't want to keep them back, you know? And if you do, say your assessment, this is kind of a good way to, your next steps you could do in this process is if you put an extension on the bottom of the assessment, just to kind of see who can go that far and who doesn't, you know, and who can't. Because
there needs to be like still, especially with these like I'm grateful that I got all of these 100s, but they also need like a little element of rigor, like you know, to really challenge their brain to keep it moving. Even though I am glad that so many of them made 100s, because it showed that they knew what they really needed to know.
Yeah.
But sometimes you do kind of want to see how far can they go.
I agree with you though, because sometimes when kids do take a test that they're going to make 100 on, they do it so quick they hardly have to think. Because they already know it so well. They're not thinking. They're not doing those higher order thinking skills that we want them to do. So if you do put kind of a challenge question at the bottom, or a bonus question, not only is that going to kind of make them think towards the end, but if the kids do fairly well on that for the majority, you could take that module in IXL and do that one next, you know?
Yeah.
I had not even thought about that before, but I mean, that's perfect, you know, is take that extension that you suggested adding to the end and kind of see, you know, can I go ahead and push them with that IXL module, you know? Like if most of them can do it, do it, you know?
Exactly.
Go for it, do it.
Or if I even wanted to extend to like the next lesson within the module, and let's say like, you know, all but 3 of the students were able to answer that question. Now I know that I don't need to really teach that lesson whole group. I can just pull them back out of math.
And just do those few.
Yes.
Yes. No, I think that's a great idea. I really do. Because like you said, there are a lot of 100s in here. Because the kids have obviously, they've understood it. And
they can put it on paper.
Yeah, I 100% agree that an extension would be great. And that's a great next step to take as well. And also, I wanted to ask you too, can you see yourself taking this strategy that you've done, and you've used IXL whole group? Could you see yourself using it, obviously in future lessons in math, but could you use it in a different subject area, you think?
Well, I found some really good IXL lessons for science.
Okay.
And we're doing thermal energy right now in science.
Fun.
I know, it's secret. I can see myself using it in science because we're already in the midst of, but so I was looking at IXL and I found some really good thermal energy science
modules in there.
Yeah. And
see, that's the cool thing about IXL is there's so much on there,
and it aligns perfectly with your grades and what you're doing. And so I saw that, and that's what we're learning right now. And so I thought as a fun review, not even each week, but bi-weekly or even tri-weekly, we could do some of those IXL lessons, like,
Yeah, and
like let's review radiation, let's review convection, let's review all of this.
Especially during like milestones. Like you can even come up with I just call it IXL whole group, but you can come up with a fun name for it, and it could just be like a weekly, like you said, or bi-weekly thing where you say, let's play whatever you want to name it, and the kids know exactly what it is, they know it's time to review, and they know what's going to happen. I think it's a great idea.
And they're not like blindsided, and also they're still able to keep themselves calm, because anytime that you think game and it's just
they
like
go
kind of
crazy,
berserk. But I think like just telling them like this is a review game, and even like the first time like continuing to say like you have to be able to calm yourself down.
Yeah.
Or we can do packet work, or you can do this IXL lesson on your own.
Yeah.
Without any help from a group at all.
That's a good point too, because sometimes they may think that, because you're always going to have those kids who don't want to do anything no matter what.
Right.
You may make the funnest game ever, and they're still not going to
It's
want
like
to do it.
pulling teeth.
And you could, like you said, if the kids can't get it together and they can't handle this game one day, instead of just saying, okay, we're not going to do it. Because sometimes when you do these big games though, and you do give them the option that if you cannot behave, like we're not going to do it.
Right.
Some kids are going to be like, yes, we want to do it, But the cool thing about IXL is they all have they all have a login to their Chromebook, or we all have Chromebooks. We have iPads, but they all have their own login, and that could easily be.
Oh yeah.
I know you have an incentive for like if whoever wins gets a piece of candy, but that can also go the opposite way.
Yeah.
If you can't handle this as a game whole group, then we have to do it individually.
Right.
Exactly. And I think that will keep them throughout the year focused, because I know if you have one activity and you do it kind of throughout the year, by the end of the year, they're like wild and crazy. They've done it so many times they're done. Like they're like, ugh, whatever, but that will kind of keep them, hopefully, kind of focused more, so that they can keep playing this and they can keep learning, and it will still be a fun review game for them.
Exactly.
So